academic team, so that's great news. So congratulations. Talk to us a little bit about the experience, Noah, and then we'll pass it down. Please introduce anybody that came with you tonight.
Well, let me just say, Harper, I don't know how we're supposed to follow you up, because nice job, and what we did is nothing compared to that. But the social studies academic team is through the Indiana Association of School Principals, and so each year for social studies we're assigned a history book. It's not a textbook, it's more just a nonfiction title. And we study it real long, make some flashcards, and then we go to 3 competitions, and then the third one's the state qualifier. So there's 25 questions, and they're multiple choice. And all 3 of the preliminary ones we won, and then that qualified us for state, which we won as well. And I graduated, so I'm gonna say it was surprisingly easy this year. And
what was the book?
On Every Tide, the
Making and Remaking of the Irish World. Sean Connolly,
because I always thought it was Sean Connery, and I got confused. Yeah. Anyways, yeah, so I was captain, and then we had all these people here with us. I'll let them introduce themselves. And then not here tonight is Caitlin Smith and Maxwell Honeycutt. But I'm Noah Woods, and I'm here with my parents. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Luke. I am here with my parents, and I'm the other senior on the team. I'm Caitlin too, but she's not here. So, yeah.
My name is Benjamin Warland. I'm here with my dad and my mom somewhere. Yeah, I'm a sophomore, and then
I'm Aiden Burton. I'm also a sophomore. Yeah.
And then, yeah, I'm Doug Baker, the coach for this team, and I do just want to add on to, I think they undersold the difficulty of what this is. You know, other teams are trying to win as well, so it may seem like because Noah forgot the title of the book that we didn't study it, but the work they put in was amazing, and obviously they do all the work. I just want to emphasize, like, they meet in my room, and then we go to a competition where I'm not allowed to talk to them while they're competing. So it's really less coaching and more they just were really passionate about winning this year. And then they read the book over and over again. And then I want to stress, it is a classed competition, but that didn't matter. We absolutely won and had the best score overall regardless of class. So we are also the champion of champions, I believe.
Hang on, I think we have Aiden's. Aiden. Sorry, David. Yeah, that's Aiden's. Yeah. I told you the wrong one. I know. Luke, congratulations. Smile.
Congratulations.
Good job, guys.
That will conclude the recognition portion. So you're more than welcome to stick around for the board meeting. But if not, now's a good time to exit.
Okay, I think we will go ahead with the consent agenda. Are there any public comments? Okay. Any comments, additions, or anything?
Yeah. President Nelson, I do have a few comments on the consent agenda. First, the copier contract, letter E. We just received that at 5 o'clock today, so we are asking that to be tabled and not voted on at this time to allow Mr. Young and Mr. Sprout to review that one more time. In addition, asking that in the personnel report, you'll notice there are two separate reports. I would ask that on the first report, everything move forward as normal, but on the document that's dated separate PR.pdf, that one has Cash Nelson as a CBIS math teacher, and that is President Nelson's son. So at this time, I would ask that, just remind that we will table, she'll abstain from that vote as well. And then as we move forward, I do have one more addition when we get to discussion, and that is another contract for the Bloomington Meadows Hospital Partnership. We ask for that to be tabled as well. There's some verbiage in there that we need to clarify and work out before we bring that to the board.
All right, thank you. Are there any questions from the board on any item? Okay, just need a motion.
Oh, motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, consent agenda passes. And we will move to the superintendent reports.
By state law, any openings that we have that can be filled by someone that does not hold a present Indiana teacher license, but that has been in the profession for 4 years, and so many hours of service in that profession, we can grant them a teaching license, and they can come in and become an adjunct teacher, similar to the collegiate level where you have adjunct professors come in. We have two positions that I'd like to fill in that vein, and the first one is a physical education weight strength position at the high school, and the second one is the Creekside art teacher. Both of those positions were filled last year with adjunct teaching, but state law requires us to renew them every year. And so we're not allowed to continue them forward without your approval. So tonight, I'm just bringing this to your attention, and then in July, we'll ask for a recommendation for approval for those two positions. In addition, they are not able to be part of the collective bargaining unit, so you'll notice that we do have a separate salary schedule that really parallels the teachers, but they're not allowed to be in collective bargaining, nor are they in the union. So that's the other nuanced position to this.
Is that because of union rules or the
That's state law rules.
State law rules.
Yeah, state law. Thank you.
Oh.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. If we could go back and vote, I'm making a recommendation to hire Cash Nelson as the CBIS math teacher, and that is in Q.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, it passes.
And one abstain.
And one abstained. He'll be happy to know that. Okay, now we...
We're going to tell him his mom voted no.
Yeah, there you go. And then now we will go to the superintendent reports, the Franklin Community Virtual School review.
And we have Principal Murphy is going to come and give us an overview and a reflection on this past year. So.
Thank you. All right, hello, good evening. So I'm really excited to come here and talk about year one with the virtual school and all the fun things that we got to learn this year. So our starting team when we first started out this fall was myself as the principal and the TOR for students grades 5 through 12. Christy Williams was our counselor. She was half-time, so 50% of the days. And then Monica Burke helped out with special ed for K4 and DIBELS interventions for that literacy component. Now, can remember as we're getting into this that we didn't know how many kids we were going to be looking at, and what we should expect for this first year. So there's a lot of learning that went into that first starting team. Our team now has expanded a bit. So I still do special ed for students 9-12, and I'm still the principal. Christy is still part-time, but we did discuss after looking at her contract and hours this year to expand her contract, so she's 60% part-time instead of 50%, just giving us a little bit more time, and then additional days, because her contract at 184, it was not enough for us to meet those needs for scheduling and graduation. Sadina Schotting was brought on as our secretary. She is also the front central office secretary. She's been an incredible help. Just having another set of eyes and ears on the information to be able to answer questions for parents, so that not every single phone call goes through me and Christy, and so much of our time is spent answering questions. She's also helped with attendance and some of our registrar duties as well, which has been great. Megan Edwards came in and helped out with special ed grades 5 through 8, which was fantastic. So to give you an idea with special ed, Monica Perk continued to do our Dibbles interventions. She had 2 IEPs at the start of the year, and both of those students returned to school within 30 days. So then she didn't hold IEPs for us for that year. But that first semester, I had 19 IEPs, which a full caseload for students is somewhere between, or for TORs is somewhere between 25 and 30 generally. So that was pretty close to a full load. I had 22 at one point, and held 20 IEP meetings before second semester. 14 of them were in August and September, and they were all annuals, which if you're familiar with the special ed case conference, that's the big case conference. And it was just the way the dice fell. All those kids that came to me just happened to have due dates that fell then. So that was a huge lift. By the end of this semester, I still held 16 IEPs. Megan has 11, and 1 was a speech-only IEP. So we still had 28 students special ed in our school at the end of the year. So Megan was an incredible help to be able to pick up about half of that load for me. When we look at this team now, there was a lot put on those first few people for the setup for that very first year. So we had to get new students into orientation. That's actually written into Indiana code that we have to have an orientation for parents and students annually. We had over 75 people in attendance at the 2 sessions of orientation, each well over 75 at one of the last ones. We also held an additional 9 orientations because we had so many enrollments from the start of school to when we closed the out-of-district transfer deadline. We set up Power School, which sounds just like, great, turn it on, right? Except we had to add all the classes, add all the teachers. A lot of that work that's usually done in April and May, which we were fortunately able to do this year, but we were kind of doing it on the fly. We have learned how to schedule with 2 different online partners, which I'll talk about in a second. Manage testing schedules, which for iLearn was 6th grade levels, the SAT, iRead, ASVAB, and the Bio iLearn. We also got ourselves a College Board AI code because we are a school with our own DOE number, so we had to get a code under the College Board to test. NCAA eligibility, and then we also learned how to set up attendance, which was an adventure. Our 2 partners, when we started this journey, and as we continue, are Indiana Online for students grades 5 through 12 and Ed Options for students grades K through 4. Indiana Online has been fantastic to work with. They have really good systems in place. They've been an incredible partner to us, in particular, being able to adjust things to meet our needs and be able to serve kids in a really good way. The teachers are incredible, very responsive, which is a very big deal in virtual school. Ed Option had a few more bumps in the road, but overall the teachers were great and the parents really enjoyed the setup. So that was really good to see. They had a very good experience with them. For the 25-26 school year, 5th grade is going to move to Ed Options. Indiana Online just had super low enrollment at the 5th grade level, and so they weren't able to justify keeping it on for the next year. So fortunately, the setup with Ed Options Academy is the same K-5, so it was actually a really easy transition for us. Learning how to kind of navigate these 2 platforms and how to work with them between, our kids and your teachers was really interesting, but it was great because they were just very, very good teammates all along the way. So our goals, this is one of our students, when I first came on was to have 60 to 80 students. We had a list of about 40 families that we knew wanted to come our way. And we got most of those that were on that initial list. So we were hoping to have 60 to 80 by this year. We wanted to provide options for students, giving them something different for school. I'm no novice to new things in school. I helped the high school create the alternative ed department there, and it was a very fun adventure, so I love being the solution to a problem. And increase enrollment, we saw a huge surge of out-of-district students, particularly in the second semester. And so we were able to get our numbers in our school up, at least. That was our goal. We wanted to hit over a 50% attendance rate, iRead pass rate of at least 80%, and then a graduation rate of at least 70%. So to give you an idea of some of those benchmarks that I looked at for us, we were looking at Achieve Virtual in Wayne Township, had a 2023 grad rate of 52%. They're about 631 students. Looking at some of those smaller schools that fit our kind of roadmap, South Bend Virtual School is 293 students and had a 2023 grad rate of 74%. And then Vigo Virtual School Academy with 239 students had a 2023 grad rate of about 53.1%. So we just wanted to set our sights high and see if we could help meet that. Vigo had an attendance rate of 41.8%, and South Bend had an attendance rate of 60.4%. So we're trying to be reasonable in what to expect for this school. Fortunately, we were able to exceed most of those things. We had 120 students by count day in October, which was far bigger than we expected. We enrolled all 120 of those kids within those first few months of school. It was fantastic to be able to see such great interest in the virtual school, to see some of the creative and unique needs of the kids that we could meet through this different platform. In second semester, we had 145 students, so we grew even in the second semester. And to give you an example, Martinsville opened, they have a virtual, they're not an independent school, but they contract in a similar way to us. They, in their first semester to second semester, lost 50% of their enrollment. So it was a little unusual that we grew in the second semester, but I think it's a very big thank you to our partners who were very helpful to us and advocates for us for kids as well. We provided so many opportunities for students. We had a couple of really unique cases that we were able to just meet their needs in a way that I could not have done even at the high school. When I was in the building, it was great to have something a little bit more in the middle. We did increase transfer students. We had, I think, at least 15 to 20 transfers from out of district at semester. That was a huge push to C9. Those students are a great fit for this option because they are in person for half of their day doing the things that they love and they're passionate about, and then they can come to the virtual option to finish out the remaining credits for high school. Those kids are typically very self-motivated. They're very driven to try to make sure that they do things correctly, and so they were very successful with us. We did achieve an 89.97 attendance rate. You could call that 90%, but I like to be exact. So we were pretty close, higher than our goal, obviously, and I can talk a little bit about that in just a second. We did achieve 100% iRead pass rate. Now, before we get too excited, it was one student, so I had all my eggs in one basket. But it was very exciting because my other third grader had already passed in second grade. So we were going in at 50%, but we did get that 100%, so I'm still gonna be able to put that on there. And our grad rate's looking like about 60%, so that is still a pretty good number considering some of those other schools. And we were able to push a lot of kids over the finish line with a lot of effort from Christy and I towards the end to make sure that they got to that point. So we're very proud of that number. When we look at some of that semester 1 to semester 2 transfers, we transitioned over 75 kids at semester. Over 50 of those were within our own school district, coming out of a building or going into a building. And then we enrolled well over 30 new students at semester as well. So we had a huge move at semester, which is very typical with virtual schools. You see a lot of transition. Student needs that fit for a short period of time, and then they're able to go back into a building, which is great to see. During this first year, we were able to go to DLAC, which is the Community Advancing Digital Learning's big conference in Atlanta, Georgia. This was the very first PD I've ever been to where everything applied to me, and that was really fun. It's completely dedicated to virtual learning. We saw some of the huge virtual learning advocates out there that have been running programs for 15, 20 years. So it was very, very cool to hear from their experience, what they've seen, and be able to talk virtual learning and what applies to our kids. We find a lot of the times when we sit in meetings anymore, they say, well, yeah, that's how everybody's going to do it, except Shelby. You're going to do it a little different. So it was really cool to be able to sit down and say, this always applies to us. Some of our big takeaways from that were being able to work with homeschool families. We've had a couple of homeschool families come in towards our program in the last year. I'm a big fan of homeschool families. My siblings were all homeschooled. I was homeschooled for a few years. So I have a little bit of experience in talking to them, but we were able to learn a little bit of that strategy to help communicate with them best and how we can help serve those kids. Because many kids are very happy in homeschool, and some parents, once they get to high school though, are not able to take on Algebra 2 teaching, and that's okay. That's where we come in. We were able to make some contacts with the NCAA, and fortunately, originally when we applied for eligibility for NCAA, so our students can go from the virtual school to play D1 athletics in college, we were denied. And so we reached out to them and tried to work with them, and just simply were not able to understand truly why that decision was made. But at DLAC, we met the head of high school eligibility, and so I was able to email her and got us approved, and also changed the way that they apply their policy for all the other schools that are very much like us. So that was a really big accomplishment. I feel like that we were able to help out not just ourselves, but many of the other schools that look like us. We learned a ton of marketing and communication strategies. One of the big ones that helped us out was families talking about doing every method of communication that you can. When I have a kid sitting in front of me, I can tell them, hey, tell your mom, and then I'll call their mom, but I'm also got that kid right there. I can hand them a piece of paper. We just don't have that in this setup. So we have to utilize every strategy that we have. We used physical mailers for the iLearn dates and had a great turnout. A lot of parents referred to that paper. They said it was really helpful. A few of them walked in with it and asked questions. So that was a huge support that they said, if you have something really important, send it out by mail. It really does make a difference. We also worked with Indiana Online because they were there presenting and also participating. And we were able to create something called a homeroom with them using their platform. So the students log in and see all of their classes, grades, messages from teachers, calendar with all their assignment due dates. That's their hub at Indiana Online. Well, I don't have access, or I didn't have access to be able to communicate with them on that hub. I communicated with them via email, but they could choose to ignore emails, right? So in working with Indiana Online, they created a whole class that we can navigate by grade level for a homeroom. So now I can put announcements out on their screen within the platform they're used to. So it's like having a Google Classroom within the Google Classroom suite. It's going to be a huge help, and it's going to allow us to capture more graduation pathway options in the next year. We also got to meet a bunch of educational platforms. I met with Accelerate, FlexPoint Virtual, and Edgenuity, all different platforms that provide learning options to see what else is out there. We have our contracts with IOA and EdOptions, and ultimately we're going to stay with them for the next year. But it was great to be able to see what other platforms and supports are out there, as well as looking at them for what options may come for us in the future. They have a lot of different things out there, but most of these programs have been established for a long time, so it's great to be able to also just talk to them about what strategies they were able to use with kids. We also got some great onboarding ideas. We changed the structure of our new student and parent orientation to address the needs of family based on what we learned throughout this year and some suggestions from the conference. One of the things that they stressed in the conference is just because a family chooses online learning doesn't mean that they are tech savvy. So how do we meet that need? And so that's part of what we're going to go through in our new student and parent orientation is like how to use the Chromebook. Because I can put a video out, but ultimately if you're struggling to use it, watching a video is not that helpful. You want that in-person question and answer. So we're going to be able to do that through our new student orientation, and hopefully we can reduce the amount of time I spend on the phone trying to talk to somebody through clicking the 3 dots. Our first year data, so our attendance rate from semester 1 to semester 2 grew about 5%. That was in huge part to the way way that we managed that system. So when we looked at that first semester attendance rate overall, we wanted to improve that and see how we can make that better. And so we, within the first week of classes in the second semester, called every single parent of every student that missed a single live class period, and it made a huge difference. It was able to kind of get that touch point, let them know that we're actually paying attention, we care that your child is in class, and I think that that was a big piece of that. It also helped us get some of that contact in early so that they're used to us without it having to be a, well, your students missed an entire week of school, what are we gonna do? We can just say early on, like, how can we help you, and provide strategies and support them. So for the year, we were able to pull off almost 90% there. Our course pass rate, which I'll be honest does look low, but you have a lot of students that come into this and learn that this is not for them, but they need to finish out the semester with us. So it doesn't always go well, but we did have almost a 5% increase from semester 1 to semester 2. And in that second semester, one of the things that we did was bringing kids into the building. They come, they sit in our office and work on things, we help them manage things, and then they can go back home and finish things up. And it was very helpful to a lot of kids. Particularly our seniors, we had a few that came and just hung out in my office every single day. And it was great. We got to talk, look through classes, celebrate those achievements in person. That was very exciting. So overall, we did increase the number of courses that were passed in that second semester. So some of our other data, as I said, our iRead pass rate was 100%. No need to mention it's just one student, but still. Our iLearn math pass rate was about 20%, which is lower than the state average, which I believe is 35% or so. So we were a little low there, so we're looking at what we can do in the next year to help support that. We did not participate in checkpoints this year, for example, and we will be doing that next year. We're going to learn about remote checkpoints as well as in person. So dedicated virtual schools do have the option through the IDOE to do those iLearn checkpoints from home, which is great. It won't be a perfect fit for all our kids, but it will be a good fit for some, especially those that live further away. As well as our iLearn English Language Arts is much closer to the state average at 31%. I will say my third graders were rock stars and really helped us with that. We had some really strong elementary kids this year. And then our grad rate was at about 60%, which to give you an idea is 14 students. We had a cohort of 27, and so 14 of those makes up 60%. So it is, we got over half of our kids, and looking at such a small cohort number and considering the nature of virtual school, sometimes we are the last option for kids. That's a pretty good number. I also wanted to talk about some of the lessons we learned throughout this year. Attendance takes manpower. Attendance is a big deal. When we pulled that out of Indiana Online and out of Ed Options, we had to hand enter every single value for the first few months while we figured out how to upload that with the IT department. It took well over 8 hours just to enter the data, not even looking at it, not dealing with it, just to put it in the system. So that really was a big hurdle for us early on. I was a little nervous once we learned how to upload it in a batch to PowerSchool. I was like, but now we're not looking at every single kid and we can't take the notes the same way. But it turns out you can do that in 30 minutes and not 8 hours. So that was really exciting to be able to click through kids. And so it was fantastic to be able to learn that. We've also got some new strategies for next year with how we're gonna do it to also try to capitalize on paying attention to the students that need us and getting it in with as little time as we can. Answering the phone was a big deal. All the parents that I spoke to that were coming from other virtual schools, one of the first things they say is, I can't believe you answered the phone, or I can't believe you called me back. I actually had a parent call me this morning and ask if she could come in today. I had the time, so I met with her today. She goes, I have not had any other program answer me. And so that's a huge plus for us. I am a big believer in answering the phone. I return all my phone calls. I read all my emails. As hard as it is sometimes, it is a huge difference for parents. I want them to be part of our school. And so being connected to us means talking to us. That is a huge draw as to why we've got a lot of parents, because they'll have feelers out at other virtual schools, but they'll go with us because we answered the phone. Virtual school is very unique. We are very different than a lot of the other working with parents is a totally different capacity than what we do at school. Especially in the elementary level, the parents are heavily hands-on. And we've learned that our parents who have teams are some of our most successful. You don't need one person there 5 days a week, but you do need a set of people that can help and be there and be ready to support your student. So we've had some discussions with any new coming students about who is on your team, who is ready to help for your student to help get them through this, and bring them to orientation. We want to train everybody as much as we can. Virtual learning is growing. This is not, it was definitely a fallout of COVID a few years ago. People went to it and stayed, but this is not that. We are a virtual platform to support students because sometimes it's just a better fit. It really depends on the kid and what it is that they need, and we've had some really unique reasons for kids to come to us. Successful online learner is very different than a successful in-person learner. It's a lot easier to close a computer than it is to ignore a teacher that's standing in front of you. So that is one of the first things that we kind of talk to parents about is when that teacher's not there, my best way to contact you is to call or email you, but it's very easy to ignore me. You have to make the choice, conscious choice to pay attention and to choose this version of learning every day. So we talk a lot with parents about that self-sufficiency. It teaches a lot of responsibility. It teaches really good problem-solving skills because we're not there to offer them a solution. They have to figure it out until somebody is available. So we were able to kind of help learn and motivate how to motivate students in this first year. And then we have a lot we can do better. There's a lot of things I want to improve upon, some of our systems and processes. I want to be more consistent about some of the tracking that we do with kids. We want to get more kids on site when they need to be here and early on in the process. A lot of kids we caught later on. So we want to try to catch them as early as we can and help them figure out if this is the right fit for them, great, let's stay here. But let's also make sure we're not quitting just because it was hard. So we have a lot of things that we're going to work through this next year to try to improve. And I'm really excited to be able to go through this for another year. So the last slide here is a photo of all of our graduates with Christy Williams is on my far right, myself, and then Dr. Clendenning and Dr. Woland all with us. So it was really exciting to be able to see that many kids and how many kids we were able to help. That is not all of our graduates, but those are the ones that chose to walk in the ceremony. We're very excited to do so. Some of those faces you will not recognize. They have never been to Franklin, but they still wanted to walk with us. So I was really excited to offer them that opportunity. What questions do you have?
Did we get them all a diploma holder?
Yes, we did.
Amazing job
Yeah.
for your first year. That's awesome. And then all the contacts made at the DLAC is really awesome. I do have the grad rate, the 60%. Was there like something that was presented more than once in the ones that didn't graduate?
So we had a lot of kids coming in senior year with less than 20 credits.
Oh, okay.
And so they need 40 to graduate.
Yeah.
So we can't always get through 20 credits in a year. And so many kids choose this option because it really is a last-ditch effort.
Gotcha.
School wasn't working, they weren't attending. Let's try one more thing before parents are ready to throw in the towel, unfortunately. So we worked a lot with those families. We tried to help get them through, but there's only so much you can do in 1 year.
Right. Are any of them returning, or is that an option, or?
If they want to return with us, they'll be able to. There's a few that will choose that, some will not. But yes, if they want to, we'll find a way to help get them a diploma.
Thank you.
One of the things that we did was probably late January to February. We looked at the students that were enrolled at our high school that were not going to make it. And we gave them another chance, another option to come in and join Shelby's virtual high school. That also impacted her graduation rate because they ended up looking like they were her students where she only saw them maybe for the last 3 months. But they were not going to graduate. They were not going to make it in a traditional 7-period day. And so this was giving them a chance. And so I appreciate Shelby being flexible and looking at options for our kids because I do think ended up continuing to be student-centered. She bent over backwards trying to help every kid make it to graduation.
Is that something that you'll do in the future?
That's something we're going to continue to look at. One of the things that the state has done away with is the waiver system, as we've talked about, you know, and you're going to hear more about that. And so when we run out of options in the in-person, the virtual becomes the option for them. So hopefully one of the things that will happen is we're bringing on Mr. Harvey to look at attendance, because that's one of the things that Shelby's had to do is take attendance and make sure she's tracking kids. So Mr. Harvey's actually going to help with attendance at both at the high school and the virtual school, as well as be a graduation coach for kids. So if he sees kids at the high school and says, listen, you're not going to make it, you know, that whatever the reason you're not showing up, we'll go to Shelby's. If Shelby has kids that they can jump over for attendance or whatever, then he'll get them to the high school. He's going to help be the bridge to that. So I do think there'll probably be students in the future that will jump to our virtual high school, but I also think there'll be some kids who'll continue to want to come back in that space.
Yeah, we had a number of students, like I said, over 30 kids in transition, or 40 with the high school, that tried it for a semester and it wasn't a fit, and vice versa. They went to high school for a semester and chose to come to us. So we definitely saw them go both ways, and I'm sure we will continue to see that.
Is there kind of a common theme or reason of why kids are choosing the virtual option versus in-person? I guess particularly too at the elementary level.
So elementary in particular is obviously parent-driven. A lot of our parents want to homeschool, but homeschooling curriculum is expensive, at least $800 a year is what they're looking at. They also then have to be content experts. So then if their child struggles with reading or struggles with math, they're not trained in those areas. So then you have to pay for additional services. Whereas with virtual, we provide teachers who are licensed in those areas. If the student is falling behind and needs help, we can do that. So that was a huge theme that we saw. Parents that wanted to consider homeschool, but just didn't have the means to do so.
What about the high school level?
So the high school level, we see a lot of different things.
Okay.
Anywhere from, social anxiety to he really wants to do this and he said he's going to do it. And then sometimes that doesn't work out. But there was a lot of different reasons for the high school level. We saw some medical necessity. That was a theme with a lot of kids. And it was a great solution for a lot of students that had medical needs because they can take their classes on the go. We had a few students that were at Riley and they did class while they did treatment. And it was a perfect option because otherwise they just would have been sitting there for those couple of hours.
Any thoughts on where you see enrollment as we move into next year?
So right now we're probably at about 112, but I will tell you, since we had like 65 enrollments between August and September, I foresee that we'll have quite a bit more.
Okay.
So I think we'll at least hit our 120.
Yep.
We've started sharing. C9 has a lot of our info. They hand our card out all the time. We hear from them. A lot of parents that call Indiana Online directly, we tend to be one of their first contacts because we've worked with them so closely, which has been fantastic. We also are kind of advertising a little bit with local gyms, gymnastics gyms, because a lot of those families choose to homeschool to offer them an option so their child can train for 8 hours a day of gymnastics, but also still be in 5th grade.
You're doing great work. Keep
Yeah.
up the good work. And program I'm excited about for high school is also the JAG program. Do you see any opportunity to coexist with that from a virtual perspective?
Yeah, I hope to be able to do that and to look into all the options with kids being blended if we need to between the two schools as it happens. It really wasn't a big thing last year, but if it starts to become an option and families are able and willing, I'd love to do that.
Okay.
I will say once you get them into virtual, that's usually because they don't want to be in a building.
Sure,
So.
sure, yeah.
I can see your passion. It's awesome.
Yep.
I love helping families. That is what I love. I love people and working with people, so it's great to be able to do it every day.
Thank you.
And she will not be the teacher of record for any student next year. We're going to partner with the high school on that, and so she'll be full-time principal.
Okay.
And then Christy's out. She's going to go from half-time to 60% for us. we see that need. Yeah, if it continues to grow, I think you can anticipate in a year or two, we're gonna need a full-time counselor, full-time principal, and some other support staff to make this thing work. You know, the accountability piece is a very large piece to this, both on attendance and academically successful students, and so we have to make sure we have the right adults to help in that space.
The right people is exactly the right answer.
The other thing, just to note, this next year, originally they talked about moving funding to 100%. That did not happen, and with the budget that was presented and voted on at the General Assembly, so it remained at 85%. But that's still a win. It's just a win for kids, and it's a win for us. So we're looking forward to having year 2.
Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move to action items. Any public comment? Thank you. And then we have the public hearing for the amended bus replacement plan. Is that you, Tina?
Okay. You'll learn over the next few months that part of the budget process is to get a bus replacement plan approved each year. When the board approved the 2024 budget, September, October of last year, we hadn't yet gone through the bond process. So once we got that bond approved and earmarked $3 million out of that bond for bus replacement, then that prompts us to have to issue an amended bus replacement plan to the state. It's a very formal process. We published the amended plan in Gateway and on our website, and then we advertised this public hearing in the Daily Journal on May the 29th. So this plan is to purchase 18 buses in total. Our current average age bus is 9.5 years old. We have 37 buses that are 12 plus years old. After this purchase, our average will go down to 5.4 years, and only 14 buses will be 12 years or older. So we'll make a lot of progress with this big purchase. 2 of these buses are grant subsidized. They're electric buses. So we'll have the opportunity to see if that might be a good solution going forward. And then the pricing that we obtained for these buses was through CIESC, Central Indiana Education Services Center. They do a lot of negotiating of contracts for larger purchases like this for school districts. That eliminates a lot of work on our side as far as going through the bid process. And we're able to go on that website and customize exactly what types of buses we need, seat belts, all of those different options. So it's a good way to make that purchase. And we're hoping that these new buses will decrease repair costs and staffing and maybe even fuel. So I'm requesting your approval on the resolution for the amended bus replacement plan.
I move to approve the amended.
Don't we have to have the public hearing first?
Yeah, it's a public hearing, so you need to call on any comments from the audience,
Oh,
for the attendees virtually.
okay. Are there any public comments for the public hearing for the amended bus replacement plan?
Thank you.
Okay. Now we can have a motion.
I move to approve the amended bus replacement plan.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, it passes. Next, we have the critical response group. Benji.
The June
We have been looking at companies to do digital ad. Sierra, the very first sponsor, is the one that some of the things that you can see in the pack there. This is where they take our existing companies that we will work with them and turn those into a much better digital app. And then the ones that we have now are a little more rolled out, and they will also come in and walk with us, making sure that the plans that we have that could have been from a little while ago, there could have been changes and adjustments in our building, but they will make sure that the doors are where they're supposed to be, the exits are where they're supposed to be. And if there need to be any adjustments, they will do that in their process. Another option that they did that is that I thought was really nice for this, if you want to go back up to the micro and macro, they do the micro mapping, which is the interior of the building, specific piece by piece, step by step, room numbers, large areas. They also do the macro, which is the exterior, so that you can look at critical spaces around the building for entrance if there's ever an emergency. That it's not just the interior. You're also going to see what does the campus look like. Every campus is so much different, and where to enter, where to exit. There have been times we have had incidences in our building and we say, we need you to come to door 18 at the middle school. I mean, they're going off their kind of remembering of everything, of what our buildings look like. Now, with this program, CRG will also do the macro map so that our emergency responders or anyone can pull those up and see where those entrances and exits are. They will come in, some of the other aspects that they do that we really liked was they will come into a training for us. They will also work with our local EMTs, emergency responders, 911 call center, and so Stephanie Seaston and I have talked about that a little bit. She was excited to hear that. Heath Brandt with 911 center as well, talked about that a couple weeks ago. And then one of the other things that they do is a training of the tabletop exercise, and we were talking to them about how we could implement that going forward. Once we are done with this, we'll also be able to take these maps and upload them into the AWS platform and have those ticketing. And also asset map owners where it is in our buildings, we'll be able to overlay all our assets on these maps.
Okay, any questions? None?
No.
Just need a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor signal by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, it passes. The IDOE behavior grant.
Also
all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, passes. And then we're tabling the Bloomington Meadows, so then we'll go to Spinbridge.
So one of our strategic planning initiatives on the finance side is to find savings and efficiencies. This consulting agreement with Spinbridge will initiate some of that savings by using negotiated pricing for some of our larger vendor spends. Spinbridge will identify some areas of potential savings and in some cases create an online catalog for those vendors, so kind of forcing our big spenders towards those sites and maybe even having the order shipped instead of visiting Lowe's or visiting Napa. So hopefully we can find a lot of efficiencies in that. Since our last meeting, I got a couple of positive references from other school districts that have used them. Nothing but positive to say about it. They did say it'll take some time on your part to kind of keep up with what they're trying to get you to do. But some savings will be a good motivator for that. The contract has been reviewed and edited by Mr. Young, so that's ready to go. And of course, there is a cost to it. They will retain 30% of our cost savings over the term of the agreement, but that gives us 70% in savings. So I think this will be a good partnership and kind of drive some of that cost efficiency in the future.
Did any of the other school corporations give you any idea of like how much they were saving, or like how long they'd been using it and how much they'd saved? Or
No, they didn't actually give me a number, but they have. It was over the course of several years, so they must have been happy with it.
Are we going to track the data, kind of monitoring and comparing what we paid for something in the past versus what we're paying for? Okay.
We will, yeah.
Perfect.
So
I like
what do you
those
envision
metrics.
those items being?
Pardon?
What do you envision some of those items being right out the gate that we think we can
We spend a
utilize?
lot at Lowe's. We spend a lot at Napa for bus parts. And
Well, hopefully that's going down.
yes, yes, definitely. And then custodial supplies is going to be a big one too, I think.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
okay, I just need a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed? Okay, it passes. Next, we will go to discussion items. The virtual school calendar for kindergarten through 5th grade.
Okay, so this is our elementary calendar, which is different than all the others. I have worked very hard with them to try to get a solid calendar from them on their live instructions. I do not have that. So I still have to go through and something together with the best part of it. So if anyone wants to start a calendar as early as I can, should you have to modify it later, you don't have that. But this is very close to what I anticipate being able to do for the year. You'll notice that spring and fall breaks are solid. And options does not take a spring or a fall break into a bigger which fortunately was not just enough that we can meet the spring break is a week earlier than our district, and the numbers on both calendars. Spring and fall break are only 5 days each. There's not that extra day in spring break. That in this calendar in particular, which is a little bit, allows us to finish school on May 22nd. This year we finished school on May 29th. So we have graduation until November. 4 days together, 3 days together. So it was very exciting to be done with all kids this age.
Thank you. Next item, the Ever-Driven Technologies.
Natalie, this is the correct one, right? Or did you?
No, I haven't turned it in.
Okay.
The ever-evolving days in our department is like, you know, different requests and needs as far as, you know, if we can just get there, give those kids where they need to be. Time to fashion, so this could be addressed for us. We like to call it basically newer control systems. So basically, they have partners all over the 35 states. They said they were doing 400 pickups basically a day for IPS. So your smaller passengers, and it's not a per child fee. So if you have 3 children in the same family, it's one rate. And it's basically curb to curb, so their transit time to pick up the kids, they're averaging probably $65 to $70 per trip, which in certain instances could provide cost savings as far as sending out the bus where we have a driver that could be driving a full-size bus like runs up to Indianapolis where we have 2 students, and so in order to do that, we have to run a sub for the normal route drivers, and then we don't run there on Mondays, and then we come back on Fridays. So service like this would be huge for not only that, but displaced children, fostering children, or some of the
I would just say that one of the challenges we've had is meeting the needs of special transportation kids that have unique needs that they need to ride by themselves and not being able to transport very well by themselves.
So are these, is an actual some type of bus that they're on, or, I mean, is it?
They have a lot of options.
Okay.
You're not going to have enough to warrant like a full-size bus, but they prefer to keep it small. That's the problem. If what you need, there's a portal where we can actually, we have our own dispatch team where we can actually track, just like we track buses today. It's like that on the street, you know exactly when that person is dropped off, and then it'll send a text to my team saying that that student's going to drop off. And we have a 2-hour window, so parents also have to input within an app where they have 2 hours before the ride and cancel it at no charge. And then we'll also get a notification that parents as well as my department will be notified during the entire route or if you need something to happen, parents will all be notified by whatever driver is dispatched. We also have our phone line in there that they can communicate back and forth with us, see that it's going to cancel or whatever.
The background checks, do those go through our school system or they come from Everdriven for the drivers?
Both. So when we've talked to other companies, and one of the things we really liked about this particular company is they do their very best to have a safe driver, just like Joe does. Right? Some of the routes are a safe driver every day. You know, they work really hard to have a safe driver for kids that have consistent routes. And I really like that. I like consistency. I like consistency safe pace. They phone call the family before they plan to introduce themselves as the driver, to respect, to drive. Like Joe said, they have
So I assume it's just an extension of our transportation service from a, let's just say, a behavioral issue. I assume that there's things that happen on these rides that all of our same school policies are in effect.
Yes.
Okay. And then from a liability perspective, Mr. Young, I assume it's just, they're covered as if they were on a Franklin bus.
If we had a need where we maybe had a behavioral issue, they do have trained aides that, like I said.
Yeah,
all
could
have
sit with
the
somebody
service
and do
that,
something. Yeah.
you know, maybe sit in the back seat with them.
Right.
You know,
Could they be on buses or rides with other students from non-Franklin students, or is it a specific ride service?
specific to us.
Okay.
It is. They said we could
Okay.
if we wanted to, but that would not be something that would happen just because they're driving by these two houses.
Sure. Okay.
Or going to the same school. It would have to be an agreement between the schools.
We would have like our own little mini fleet of assets that would just be specific to us.
Okay. Cool.
So are the students that are going to Rise, they ride different, they ride a bus, or are they going to use this
So right
program?
now, we have 2 minibuses that go to Rise.
Okay, that's my question. How are you going to take
Well,
each individual one?
If
with
we
those.
have a incidence per se
Uh-huh.
on a Rise bus, then this
Then
would
they
be
could
a
be the
good way if
alternative.
that particular individual needed
Uh-huh.
their own space, then that's when we can pull and put there. But as of now, we plan to still run the Rise routes because I think we're up to like 12 kids now.
Okay.
I think one way to look at this is think about least restrictive environment. You know, a student sits in a classroom, general education classroom, they get to do that. And same in transportation. If you can ride a bus, you ride a bus. If it comes down to ever-driven, that would be their least restrictive environment, and that's where we would have those students. But it would continue to go down that continuum before we would not employ this group until we've exhausted all of our resources.
Correct.
It's a great idea. Wow.
I know we should have all thought of it, right?
I know,
Yeah.
like, yeah.
Yeah.
Take stock in it.
Any other questions?
Thank you both
Yeah,
for
thank you.
doing the research.
Okay, next we have the AstroTurf field turf agreement.
When I first got here in 23, we were putting in AstroTurf in high school, very large project, and this is just a maintenance program through AstroTurf. Where if we continue to do this, it was going to run some of that turf for about 2 years. And then they would be minor days of field runs for instance, the issue with the seams to an extra charge. And then we continue to do it every year. We will extend it over 2 years. We can then inspect the field, see if there's underneath the field turf around here, there's black pebbles, the inlay, kind of keeps it soft for the kids hit the ground. They also come in and groom, usually groom equipment, fire brushing, light decompacting, tell the group the GMAX performance of the gymnastics that when we first hit the ground, the GMAX are safe. Also connecting any matting and metal. From there, as much as we tell people not to bring things on there, do certain things, pieces of equipment may fall off, we don't see equipment and then cleaning, and disinfecting of the turf, and then they also go over and get to make sure that we're taking all of our procedures.
Hey, John, all for it. Is there any value in waiting to see if AstroTurf happens to be the vendor of choice for?
They're not going to be.
Oh, never mind. You brought it up.
So I would say that there are differences in the turfs.
Okay.
A while ago, when we looked at turfs and did that for project in high school, there were a few differences in the turf and the sound here is actually field turf is what people call it, so they don't come. Field turf is preferred in the high school project. It's
No, you're fine. I just wanted to make sure that if we were to do it in consecutive order with the Newfield.
There will
something
probably be some
contract.
things we do in terms of single pairs.
Yeah. Okay.
Especially with what you're on, and then the scenes do think sometimes traditional, we're there.
Yeah, it wouldn't take much. I'm guessing it wouldn't take much to spend $4,000. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, next we have the Bean Stack Agreement.
As Emily comes forward, I do want to publicly thank her. She is our media specialist for the district. She's housed at the high school, a former English teacher for us. She and Kelly Hadley, who is the media assistant here at the middle school, have been investigating this opportunity for us. We've been talking more and more about literacy. How do we get families engaged in literacy? How do we engage our community in literacy? How do we help students, especially here we were seeing our middle school students did not want to read. They don't want to take books home and read at home. And so we were looking for creative ways to encourage reading. So I will let Emily take it from here, but Emily, thank you so much.
Thank you. Yes, thank you for letting me come and talk to you about Bean Stack today. If any of you are familiar with the Johnson County Public Library Summer Reading Challenge, they use Bean Stack for their platform. So that's what we're looking at as well. If you're not familiar with it, basically Bean Stack is a customizable reading challenge platform. So with this platform, it includes reading challenges that I can set up for the district. We have certain teachers or professionals in each building that are also going to be able to create challenges within each building. We're looking at creating challenges across the district with other schools, with other teams within your own building. We have a lot of ideas in place for this. But this platform includes a combination of mobile, so students can download the Bean Stack app and they can have it on their phone. But I can see lots of the older students wanting to use this. But you can also use it on your Chromebook. So every student will have the Bean Stack application on their Chromebook. And it's super easy to download every student because it just goes through our Clever Launchpad. So that's very convenient. Bean Stack will do all of that work for us, so we don't have to do any of that ourselves. It includes book recommendations, so many things. I included a link here, so if you wanted to investigate further, you guys could do that. But why Bean Stack? So like Brooke mentioned, we were seeing, especially at the middle level, lots of students just not interested in reading any longer. I think in the elementaries, teachers are taking their kids to the library every day, every week, and so it's pushed a lot in the elementary level, but as we start to get older, students start to see a decline in just wanting to read for fun. So we thought, how can we help the literacy with all of our students across all age groups in our district? And so we took a look at Bean Stack. Like I said, it is this platform that engages students in challenges. So we're hoping with this intrinsic motivation, it has gamification features in it, students like that, teachers or whoever sets up the challenge, we can include optional activities that the students have to complete as well. That makes it, there's a little fidelity with that, so then you know if they're actually reading or not. It's not a requirement, but you can upload those additional activities. We're also excited that parents will be able to, or caregivers will be able to have access to the app as well. So then at home, we're encouraging the literacy skills. It has trackers and timers. So in a classroom, let's say the teacher is reading the same book to every kid. We're all reading Fahrenheit 451. And so the teacher can just mark in the app for every student, and it would just take like 30 seconds. She just clicks every kid in the classroom, says we're all reading this for 30 minutes. And so then it automatically uploads that data for the students. They don't have to do it themselves, but they could set timers at home too, and the parent could say, okay, you're gonna read for 15 minutes, and the timer's set, and it uploads that data. If we're interested, we could do fundraisers, readathons. It has so much that is available for us if we're interested. They're reading challenges. We can create them ourselves. They have pre-made ones, so if we just want something that's already created, really easy, that is available for us.
But I think what we're most excited about is it also connects to our school district theme for the year. So every year we have a different theme. Like remember when it was Tell Me Something Good? Well, this year our theme is going to be One District, Many Stories. So we're really going to push the literacy this school year, and we're hoping Beanstack will be the way that we can encourage all of our students to read. And if you're thinking about the budget, where's the money coming from for this? We're combining a couple different budgets. So we're using some of our library funds along with district funds to pay for it for this school year. Do you guys have any questions for me?
So be thinking about if you want to be taped to a wall or pied in the face, or if there's some challenge the board wants to be a part of, let us know.
Thank you.
Emily. Thank you.
You guys really didn't know what you were signing up for.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
I just heard it paid a lot.
So. Okay, next we'll hear about mindful growth.
That has nothing to do with tape and pie and all of that. Maybe not as exciting, but I shared with you in Friday notes about just kind of the pattern of having a shortage in special education, particularly with speech pathologists and school psychologists. And so this past year we contracted with a company out of Illinois, and they got the work done for us, but it's not a company that I want to continue with. And so in vetting other contract companies for school psychologists, there's one out of Vigo County, Mindful Growth, that is being used right now by any of these school districts, so they've been vetted and I got great feedback from them. Our school psych team met with them, which was great. We sat down and were able to present all of the things that we need and all of the things that create some turmoil for us this year, and make sure that their vision and their practices align with us in Franklin. And so this contract is for Mindful Growth. Their plan is to do 75 educational evaluations for us next year. We did have to agree to a number, which our pattern is we will do 75 evaluations. We have 5 positions in our district, 3 are filled, and we hired an intern for this year. That intern has to work side by side with a school psychologist for a semester. She can't go into a building and work independently until second semester. So we're still going to be burdened a little bit first semester until she is able to take a building. But our plan for the contractor is to take one of our elementaries first semester until the intern can take the second, and then cover middle school, high school, and virtual school. Fitting in with the is just based on typically what we do with our younger kids in evaluation versus our older. We really want our in-house people to be able to work with literacy and math, and let our contractor people work with the schools. So next time, come back and that's with us. Any questions?
Okay, abnormal email security.
The cybersecurity unit realized that with artificial intelligence, email has changed quite a bit. We used to train our staff with email, does it have the right terms, is it using the proper verbs, is it using the right adjectives, does it make sense? We say it's fake, it's fun. Oh, okay. So, thank you. So, but the landscape's changed.
We have the ability to use artificial intelligence. So now they copy this text that may have poor wording into artificial intelligence, and then they send it. So where our current filter is looking for terms and technology, we are looking for something new. And this is where we come into numbers. We received in April we used only because it was a whole month, kind of even my spring break, we received as a school district almost 1 million emails. Realizing it only takes one click on one email, it gets a little unnerving and it's hard to lay my head on the pillow at night, especially when 28,000 were rejected as spam and phishing. You'll see here in a moment we use Ms. Job and Mr. Doty as individuals, samples of their emails. But the difference about abnormal is they look for trending within the emails. Who's it from? How do they speak? Is this a normal context that they use? Is this a normal way they phrase things? Instead of just looking for email addresses and poor wording, it's using artificial intelligence and it's learning as it is. Right now, Abnormal is in line with our current email system. It's just not doing anything about what it's checking. So proof of concept doesn't work for Franklin Community Schools. This is an example of Mrs. Job getting an email, and you'll notice that what it says is a phishing credential. Most importantly, the electronic signature via DocuSign is rare from this individual. So where our current filter is looking for content, this is measuring it by what it already knows. The email details on it, the statistics, are all laid out. So if Ms. Job calls and says, hey, this is what's going on, we can easily get that back. Mr. Doty, on the other hand, you'll notice that the sender isn't a standard person asking for finances. So it measures those details. Is this what you normally talk about from this person? Is the signature make sense to what they normally send? And once again, we'll look at the statistics for that. We won't get into the details of it, but this is how it outlines it. We don't lose any emails, so if there's a false positive, we can get it back and send it back to the sender. But I've been thoroughly impressed with Abnormal as a whole. It keeps track of the most attacked. This is for April. It changes month to month. Dr. Clendenning and I kind of do the tag team on that. But you'll notice that those are names that you will recognize. And that's because that's what they're after. And so you'll notice that in the next one, the most impersonated Mr. Purley is this month. It does change between him and Dr. Hayden is also quite common. So it holds on to all this information and goes from there. Abnormal price is for staff only. This wouldn't be for students. And so for staff only, the cost is $12,600 per year. And that's broken out based on quantity of staff. Roger has already had the opportunity to review the contract and have met his expectations. I'd be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Great job.
Okay, the handbooks for 25-26 school year.
Yes, if you would, you will see attached to the agenda the handbooks as well as the summary of changes. So really quickly, I will run through a couple of things. Most of it is self-explanatory, I think, in the summary documents the principals provided. We have one elementary handbook for the on-site buildings, if you will, the 5 elementaries, and then Shelby has her own handbook for the virtual school. For the elementary, the key change, and this is true as well for CBIS, I would say. There was a lot of housekeeping in CBIS. The medication procedure and documenting who is eligible for us to release those medications to. So you will see that information in the elementary handbook as well as the CBIS handbook. Again, CBIS has some other housekeeping items that are included, ensuring we have the right people in the right spaces, the right names in places. If you look at the middle school, I will say again, housekeeping changes. So you have the full handbook as well as some of those changes in that provided document. One note I want to make on the middle school handbook. There is a section on their change document from last year's handbook to this year's handbook dealing with attendance. There have been some changes in the legislation in Indiana Code as a result of the last session. We should receive our updated policies and guidelines from CCHNA somewhere around June 15th. So once we've processed those, we bring those to the board and approve whatever policy or handbook changes are needed. Those will supersede what's in their handbook, and then we will go back and adjust those handbooks to align with those guidelines and policies. You will see Shelby's changes in there, which consist of the new diploma. Mr. Eckhouse has been to the board meeting to talk through with us the changes in the new diplomas for the incoming freshmen. Those are the same changes that were made then in the high school handbook as well. So you see those reflected in Shelby's. And they were the same ones at the high school level in their handbook. happy to answer any questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Brooke.
Say it louder, Shelby. Yes, there will be, but we'll address those at the July meeting. Yeah, for everybody. We'll just do everybody. I'm sorry. I can't hear you. I'm so sorry. Yes, but some of those will impact a number of the other buildings. The attendance meetings, those transition from 5 to 10, so we'll do those changes all as one bulk because that will impact everybody.
Okay, are there any public comments on the discussion items? Any board or administrative comments? Any board comments?
I just want to say thanks for all involved in graduation. It was a great experience. I can see how it'd be really miserable if it was hot. But I know everybody up here and everybody in this room had a key part in that, so thank you. From my perspective, I thought it went off without a hitch, so it was a great day, and it was much appreciated. The other thing, I don't know if Benji, can you give us like 2-minute synopsis of how the EMA thing went? I read the article in the journal, but from your perspective, the training at Creekside, the active, I hate the title of it, but I know Doug's here too. I didn't. Terrible title, but I get it.
At Creekside, it's called active killer training. They changed it from active shooter training 6-7 years ago. Last year, it's changed to active killer training. We've done this training throughout the county for, I think this is the 6th year. I've been fortunate enough with the right name to be a part of every single year. So great to see the evolution. We started out with 20 participants 6 years ago, and this year including school personnel and emergency responders, police, fire, 911. We were right around 200 we did a 2-day training. Day 1, public is completely allowed. I away the reason why the chief said no every year class was to see the training they do to understand how they go. They basically go through, they work on clear rooms, they work on breaching rooms, they work on formations on how to make sure they are being as efficient as they possibly can in these situations that are occurring in our schools. Or really just we looked at any place that would be a larger scale attack on any place. Same day they come up with a scenario and we go from participants that come in and they volunteer and from students to adults, sharing with the principal of the building what happened with the procedures as well, and then they debrief afterwards. Every year it feels like it gets a little larger. It's a little more complex. It's more feedback for us to so we can make it better and feedback this year for next year. I'd like to thank everybody on stage for what he's doing this year. I think it's a great thing that we got to have our SROs be involved, police department be involved, and we see the collaboration across our county, different SROs, police, fire, EMTs. It's something that doesn't happen a lot of other places. I can tell you when I talk to the critical map or the mapping group, they said we did a tabletop. I was like, that was awesome. I said, we did a tabletop. We did a tabletop meeting. We also do this thing June after school gets out of here. Did you guys do that? Everybody in the county shows up. I was like, just about everybody. It's, you don't understand how everybody is. So to see our groups work together,
Thank you. No, I appreciate it. I heard great things about it. Good. Thank you.
Doug, anything else?
I would give a shout out to Chief Cox and Sheriff Cox. He did a lot of behind the scene hours and efforts to make this thing happen for us, and want to thank him. He brought in some real life experience in his past life as well as what he's been studying on that to give us this. One of the things you're going to hear coming up is the retreat on July 31st. The first section, there will be executive session on safety. We'll have Sheriff Cox with us, as well as Benji, and we'll talk about safety. Then we can go into some real detail about what happened that day, how we did some different things, and how we reacted, and then get your feedback as well. But that is an executive session, and that will start our retreat as we move into that. So that's one thing to know. So if you have questions about safety or whatever, please get that to Benji, Doug, or myself, and we'll make sure we get those answered up on the 31st. A couple other things. Brooke talked about attendance, and I know that's a significant issue that you're going to hear more and more about. It's going to be how we're going to be measuring our accountability model, and so she has some things to report on that and ask your ideas.
So we've been pooling some of our, I would say some of our colleagues in the county to just get a sense of how they're handling attendance, especially because as Dr. C said, we know that it will be part of the rule that comes out on accountability measures. So we have some different questions about how we manage parent phone calls. So one of the conversations we had today was an idea about bringing some parents in. I will probably try to do that in early July, gather a group of parents from our community to talk about what their thoughts are on student attendance and how we track attendance and ensure that students are with us. We do know in the new legislation, we're now looking at attendance meetings for unexcused absences K through 12. So what pressure, where will those pressure points be in our district for our staff and the demand? I do have the numbers. I think I shared them in Friday Notes last week for our K through 6 buildings, but now expanding that to the middle school and the high school. Just really looking at how we navigate some of those different excused absences versus unexcused absences. The state did make some changes on what's exempt with regards to 4-H and the state fair. So some of those changes will also come through in the new policies and guidelines that we see from CCH&A. So if you are passionate about student attendance and want to talk with me about that or want to participate in one of those conversations, let me know. But just as a heads up, I will be reaching out to families.
Calendar of events, just a couple highlights. Central office will be closed June 30th through July 4th. That's also moratorium week. For our high school and middle school athletes, they're not allowed to have contact with their coaches during that time. And so we will be closed for cleaning, carpet cleaning, and those different things. We will be working remotely, though, in those spaces. So that is still a school day for us, if you will. New teacher orientation is July 21st and 22nd. As we look to the start of next school year. Also, August the 4th, I think, President Nelson, you said you could come to August 4th to welcome everybody, but everybody else is more than welcome to come. But Becky will talk to all of our teachers and everyone. And as you heard, our theme is One District, Many Stories, and we're going to do different presentations around that concept that day and also throughout the year. And also if there's anyone that you know of that's worthy of our Hall of Fame, and our Hall of Fame focuses on the 5 guiding principles: individual student growth, communication, collaboration, systemic improvement, and trust. Please get those names to us. Right now, I think we have one person that submitted an application, and we usually do something in August with the class, so that is coming up. They have to be a graduate of Franklin Community High School. That's the only requisite, right? So they have to graduate from our school. So if you know of anybody or have any questions, get them to Natalie, and she'll be able to get the packets out, and we'll look forward to having our annual event for that.
Is that everything?
That's everything.
Okay. Just ask for adjournment. Movement for adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right. Thank you, everyone.